What's going on, everyone? Brandon back with a new episode of Nautical News presented by Nautical Network. And today we are at the cigarette racing factory and headquarters in beautiful Miami, Florida. And I am sitting next to the new investor and CEO in cigarette racing, John Ruiz. Great to have you on.
Likewise, pleasure.
So tell the audience a little bit about who is John, kind of where you come from, and a little bit about yourself.
So started boating when I was 15 years old. My first boat was a Pantera powerboat, 28-footer. I didn't have money to build the entire boat, so I bought the hull and deck with nothing else on it. Back then, we would use artificial type of grass to complete the cabin area. And then little by little, I started buying the gauges and then bought the interior, and then I was able to slap on two Evinrude outboards on it, and then I learned about boating. I always liked the speedboats. And sometime in about 2002, I owned my first cigarette. It was a 38 Top Gun, and then I realized that the brand was just spectacular, the way that it rode. Had a lot of boats, and I've had a lot of boats since then. And frankly, when the opportunity presented itself, I already owned 5 cigarettes at the time, so it was a no-brainer for me, because not only did I think it was a good investment, I thought that the brand was just the best brand in the world in terms of ride. And I also grew up in the late 80s when you would drive around and would go out on Sundays, and if you had a cigarette, that was, you know, kind of like a Ferrari.
Right.
So it was great. I mean, just piecing it together. So, I mean, I'm really an attorney by trade, but I'm an entrepreneur because I invest in a lot of businesses. I do try all my cases, and they're all nationwide and some in Puerto Rico. So this is kind of, you know, somewhat of a passion, but we're employing a lot of resources into it and a lot of technology, and I think there's a lot of exciting things to come for cigarette. I think Skip Braver did a great job with the brand. It's very well manufactured. We're going to put even more details into the boats and even more attention to just make it the most spectacular boat that is built.
That's great. So obviously you kind of shared a little bit about kind of your passion for cigarettes, owning a bunch of cigarette boats. What was, I guess, has it always been a goal of yours to own a boating manufacturer, or what kind of led to that?
You know, I've always loved boating. I can't tell you that I was specifically looking for a boat manufacturer, but the opportunity presented itself, and when it was brought to me, it was brought to do with a bunch of other investors, but I just like to do things kind of on my own because I move very quickly, and I like to kind of follow through with my ideas. And then I figured when you have other people, some people don't have your same ideas, and that's where I started to focus on it. I do have a patent pending on a very peculiar but life-saving product, which is illuminated channel markers. It's called Lumency, and we're doing all the technology for it now, and these will be the channel markers that not only are they illuminated, but cigarette will be the only boat that will communicate with those illuminated channel markers. And you know, there are a lot of people that crash into channel markers. A lot of people don't really know how to navigate. They don't know if to go on the left or the right side of the marker. They get confused. They tell you red right return when you're heading south, or when you're heading back, but then they don't know if they're heading back or they're heading south. They get confused. And I think it's a life-saving invention. We're now retooling it, and then it's going to communicate wirelessly with law enforcement. It'll communicate with the vessels. I'm also working on an anti-collision system for the cigarette boats. I mean, there's going to be a lot of technology behind the brand.
Right. Very innovative, yeah. And I think with so many new owners of boats, you know, coming into the industry, that's very impressive. Obviously, I don't think you just woke up one morning and said, I want to buy cigarette racing. What were kind of those events that led up to the acquisition of cigarette racing, and why now?
So again, somebody was working a deal with Skip, and they brought it to me, and they didn't bring it as cigarette. They just said, hey, are you interested in investing in boat manufacturing? And I said, yes, I'm definitely interested. And then they made me sign a bunch of NDAs, and then when they told me it was cigarette, my jaw dropped, because if there was a brand that I would want to own, would be cigarette. So look, I just think in life everything's about luck and timing, hard work and effort. I'm a guy that sleeps 3.5, 4 hours maximum a night, so I'm always thinking of how to innovate. That's what I like. That's what keeps me going. And I figured, because the product in terms of hull and deck and the ride that you get from a cigarette is unparalleled. I've taken my family on many boating trips, and when the weather gets really bad and you're on a cigarette, you feel like you're controlling the ocean instead of the ocean controlling you. And with that in mind, and just adding to the product itself, I felt it was the best platform to deploy all the thoughts that I had as it pertained to boating. And being that I've always captained my own vessels, I kind of get an understanding and a feel for what I think people not only want but need, both from convenience to safety to accommodations, those kinds of things. So those are the things that got me interested. You're right, I just didn't wake up and it happened. I mean, I think it's an evolution. I think, had I been presented with some other businesses that I didn't know about, then probably it wouldn't have happened.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so, you're a very prominent business person, very successful, coming into an iconic brand such as cigarette racing. I'm sure it'll flourish under your leadership. You've kind of expressed some of those different technologies and whatnot that you're bringing into the brand and probably the whole maritime industry as a whole. What does the future look like under your leadership at Cigarette Racing?
I think it's very promising. I think one of the things that we want to do, like with everything that I've always done in my career, whether it's been as an attorney or whatever else I embark upon, customer satisfaction is always very, very important. Cigarette is a brand that people are avid about. They just love it. They just love what they have. And I want to make sure we reach back to all those people that have those boats and to become an asset to them. If they need parts, if they want to come bring it back to retrofit it. One of the beautiful things about Cigarette was that 38 Top Gun. That was the boat in the 80s. I think that's the main boat that people think about when you think about Cigarette. I want to bring a lot of that back. I think that, yes, we're building open fishermen, we're building some cruisers, we're building a lot of fun, nice stuff. But I think people that are really enthusiastic about going fast safely, there's still that thing that drives you. Ironically, what I do in my last 30 minutes before I go to bed, I watch boat races.
Yeah.
So I love cars, I love boats, and then that, I think, look, when you have a brand like Cigarette or any other brand that's very focused on and people follow, you need to kind of understand that, right? So, yeah, people run businesses to make money, but you got to love what your product is. You got to love and feel the passion that you're feeding, and make sure people understand that you're just not selling something. You really believe in it, because they believe in it, right? So that people that buy cigarettes is a very, I know, because that's the only brand that I would buy. So because I own it, I understand how they feel. So I think that you're going to see a lot of things. For example, we're going to have personal watercraft, the best in the market, the most stable, the fastest, but very safe. I believe in safety a lot. That to me is key. For example, some people do it. I never let people ride on the bow of the boat when I'm traveling. There's just, I try to be preventive in terms of accidents and stuff like that. So what do we expect in the future? We're going to have a true fishing boat. We're going to have personal watercraft. We're going to build boats up to 120 feet. I'm working on building the fastest boat in the history of the world, over 100 feet. I'm working on all that, and we're working on it, and it's going to be out very soon. Obviously you've got to stage things right now. There's a lack of resources, not from our perspective, but from materials and things that, because of the COVID pandemic, we're looking into that. We've forged great relationships already. And I think you're going to see that we're going to be bringing a lot of jobs to the community because we're going to be building a lot of it here. That's one of the other things that's beautiful about cigarettes, U.S. made.
Yep.
So that's kind of what people should anticipate and expect.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's so exciting. Obviously we've been through this COVID pandemic, kind of coming out of it there. The maritime industry is flourishing. I guess as a whole, how do you kind of see the whole industry going, and how have you seen it change, kind of being in boating and now obviously involved on the business side of things?
So look, the pandemic at first, everyone, was very concerned, and it's not they're not concerned now. But I think it changed the way people thought about life. I think we're going back to some of the traditional ways that we used to grow up when we were younger. You're much younger than I am, so you probably don't recall that, or maybe your parents haven't explained it to you. But back when I was growing up, everything was about family. People were eating at the dinner table at the same time. You know what? As great as technology is, everybody wasn't looking at their cell phone. And boating, and I can tell you this from experience. I have 3 kids. Some of the best moments I've had in my life was when I had my kids with me on vacations, and just some things as simple as, throw me the rope. Where are we going to anchor? Where are we going to dock? Where are we going to that has been brought back. The outdoors has been brought back. Some things happen and you don't understand why they happen, but when they do happen, I think that's opened everybody's eyes and has created a new entertainment for people that didn't know about boating. And the people that did know about boating have just expanded and understood, wow, this is important, and we should not forget that we have the privilege of doing this. And depending on where you live, don't always have that privilege, right? So you guys told me you guys are from Tampa. There's a lot of boating in Tampa. There's a lot of boating in Florida. So I think that's definitely a plus. I still think people are willing to pay for quality. And look, one thing that people that haven't boated before will soon understand, if they're not already understanding it. One thing is to look at a boat at the dock, and another thing is when you're out on the open ocean. Right. Because they look great at the dock, but when the sea turns on you and things get rough and the wind starts kicking up and it starts raining, you really want a performance machine. And that's what cigarette brings. It brings reliability. It brings, brute force, strength, the way that they cut, the waves, and no matter how big the waves are, that you feel that you're so secure. Right. That's very, very important, to me, and that's basically what I want to focus on.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I mean, I think, kind of wrapping things up, what's one piece of advice business advice that you could give to the whole maritime industry? What would that be?
So look, I think, and you kind of hit on it when we first started. You get a car and you have to have a driver's license and you have to go and pass the driver's course, right? There's no such thing really unless you get into certain big boats that you need to have certain licenses. Everybody can get on a boat and drive it. And I think that starts to become somewhat dangerous. So the marine industry should focus, in my opinion, everything's great, but safety comes first. Because I am now in a position to develop safety features and aspects to the marine industry, we're going to do that, and we're going to share it with the rest of the industry. So I would say safety first. Yeah. Fun comes second, because it's no fun if you don't have safety involved. I think that a lot of manufacturers. I'm not here to criticize anyone. I'm just here to speak my mind. I think people lose the concept of the consumer wants something that they feel proud of, that they use, and that they can go to at a dinner table and say, I own this brand, whatever brand it is. Not everybody has to love cigarette. Not everybody has to buy a cigarette. We'd love for those people that want to buy a cigarette. We want to make sure the experience is going to be spectacular. We have our marketing teams in place. We have people that are going to, provide you utmost service. We're going to have people that make sure that when you're building a boat, that you understand everything that's happening, what goes into it, that you understand how to use it. So I guess my advice to the marine industry is build a product that people really understand what it's about. Teach them how to use it. Teach them the safety aspects of it. Focus on safety, and then also focus on convenience, because believe it or not, there's some correlation between convenience and safety. Because when you're docking and you're doing certain things on a boat, how well you can deploy your anchor, how well you can tie up, becomes somewhat of a safety aspect. If you're running into another boat, people are putting arms out in boats. So whenever I'm on a boat, I go, listen, it doesn't matter what happens to the boat. No arms, hands, or legs or feet outside of the boat. Statistically, I started off as a personal injury lawyer. I've done a lot of personal injury cases. Now I do what I call Medicare and Medicaid recoveries, primarily for the government when they pay improperly, and we do those recovery efforts. So I've built a lot of technology platforms. That's my principal business, is a technology platform. From a technology point of view, and from statistical review, most boating accidents do not happen when the boats are moving. It happens getting on and off the boats and transferring from one boat to the next, and alerting the public to how that is, and making sure that when you deliver a boat, whether the person has a captain or doesn't, that person gets trained and their family gets trained. I would say training course and session before you can get the boat delivered. That's one of the things I like to work on. You can't get delivery of a boat unless you present to the state or wherever you're at that you've passed some kind of a course. I think that's of utmost importance. It's not only your life, it's somebody else's life too.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think talking with other people in the industry, I think the safety matters is definitely a hot topic. I don't think there's too many people doing those safety precautions around it, so it's great to hear that that's what you want to do. So,
especially at night. At night, it's extremely difficult and dangerous to navigate.
So I guess that's kind of where you're coming with the illumination of those signage and all that.
Yes, and a lot of people go into shallow areas and they don't understand. They don't really know how to read the GPSs. So, look, it's really easy to get lost in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to say I've gotten lost before myself. Yeah. So if you don't understand that and you don't know which way, you guys are younger, so you have the benefit of the GPS. When I started boating, it was just a compass. You go 90 degrees, 120 degrees, 100, that's how you get to places. Yep. And then you'd look out for the channel marker and you see, is that the channel marker? And then if it was hazy or it was raining, you didn't know where it was, you'd have to go slow. So those kind of things will make a difference.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm going to go through 3 rapid questions. If you can just shoot them out, and then we'll kind of be finished up. So I know you said it before, but what was the first boat that you owned?
28-foot Pantera.
And what is your favorite destination to go to by boat?
Bahamas.
And third and final is, what is your favorite activity to do while boating?
While boating. So I was going to say boating. I would say safely go fast. I like to hear the power. Yep. I like to feel the torque. And that's probably why, I have a 50 Marauder and I'm building a 51.5. I'm going to build a bigger one. But even though, it's point A to point B and you roast out there because you have nothing to cover yourself with, I have a 59 Tirana also, which is fast and I love it, but I just like the power and the deep V cutting through the waves. And, it's some people like car racing, and I'm not into racing boats, professionally or that. But that's my favorite thing.
Awesome. Well, love it. John, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
So excited to see where cigarette racing goes, especially under John's leadership. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Nautical News. Make sure to comment below, share, subscribe, and follow, and we'll see you on the next episode.